It's going to be a very important day for the markets today because today's Fed Day, where Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve will be having their press conference and Q&A session about the economy and path of interest rates. In my opinion, I think this is how the meeting will go. I think the Federal Reserve will stop short and won't cut interest rates this meeting. However, I think that Jerome Powell will lay the groundwork and path for the Federal Reserve to cut rates in the September meeting, acknowledging a slowing labor market, which is we're starting to see based on the JOLTS job opening report that came out yesterday, showing that the number of job openings came out at 8.2 million, slightly lower than last month, and that the ratio of job openings to unemployed people was 1.2, which is at pre-COVID levels. And then the ADP payroll report came in at 122,000 jobs for July compared to 147,000 estimates. So this shows that the labor market is starting to weaken. There could be some noise in these numbers, but we've seen that the labor market numbers have been revised down recently. So I think that the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell will acknowledge that in the press conference. Obviously, we have to see, but I think he's going to lay the groundwork and path for a September rate cut. This is going to be a huge meeting. In my opinion, I think he'll make that shift. At least he won't confirm it. He's not going to say with 100% certainty, but he's going to say if he continues to see the data like he's seeing now, that we should be on the path for rate cuts in that meeting. So then I want to talk about Microsoft. Microsoft's earnings report was good in earnings and revenue, and they beat on 11 of 12 metrics. However, their cloud revenue for Microsoft Azure was only 29% compared to 31% the last quarter. Investors saw that, thought that was a slowdown in growth, and they were looking honestly at almost any excuse to sell these high-flying AI stocks and big tech players like Microsoft. However, I think that slowdown was only due to capacity constraints on chips, and Microsoft it was all about the earnings call in Satya Nadella. He was saying that the AI monetization story is playing out. He's seeing evidence of that, and he sees accelerating cloud growth and also AI for the rest of this year and in 2025 as well. AMD had a really good earnings report. Their chip sales were $1 billion for the quarter, and their data center revenue was 115% higher than last quarter, which shows the growth for AMD and its AI chips, pretty much taking into NVIDIA's turf for AI chips, giving NVIDIA some competition. And ultimately, I think the market should do well. I think the fact that AMD's earnings report was so good, and I think the market will come to terms with Microsoft's stellar earnings report despite the Azure cloud slowdown. I think the market should do well today. And look, Fundstrat's Tom Lee thinks that after this earnings report, after the Fed meeting, he thinks that the market could rise 4 to 5% in 5 days alone, especially with small cap stocks that are interest rate sensitive, that there's an increasing likelihood that Fed Chair Powell tees up a September rate cut. So let's see if that happens, but I'm pretty optimistic, especially with the decent Microsoft earnings report and AMD's earnings report. I think that it's more fuel to the market in terms of earnings growth and the tech spend that we're seeing in this fourth industrial revolution, especially if the Fed and Jerome Powell tees up that September rate cut. Obviously, we have to see. And then I also wanted to touch on McDonald's. McDonald's posted their earnings a couple of days ago, and it was the first sales decline in over 3 years. They missed on earnings and revenue, and this is because consumers are starting to get pinched. The cost of McDonald's is rising pretty substantially. For the cost of 2 people, getting a Big Mac could be close to $30 with no coupons. So they just rolled out a $5 value meal, which I think is a good thing, because they're starting to see that consumers are getting strapped right now. And then lastly, I want to touch on some crypto news. We have the SEC dropping their case. They were initially trying to declare Solana, Cardano, and Polygon as securities, but they're dropping that case in a huge win for crypto. I think the SEC is starting to read the tea leaves in terms of thinking that they were too harsh in their regulation by enforcement and their executive lawsuits in the crypto industry recently, as seen by a lot of the polling data. So it's good that they dropped their lawsuit on Solana, Cardano, and Polygon, trying to declare those securities when, in my opinion, they aren't. So I think that is good news. Let's see ultimately what happens. And Representative Rokana, he is a Democratic representative, pretty much saying that he thinks that being against Bitcoin is like being against the cell phone, laptop, or semiconductors. And why wouldn't the U.S. want to lead in this technological innovation? I ultimately and really agree with him on that front. And it's good to see that we're starting to see more bipartisan support for crypto in general right now.